Facebook's just making it more difficult to live stream from a third-party platform, so. But I don't see us live yet in the group. Let's see.
Your assistant mentioned it, but I was not aware.
Yeah, it happened last week.
Of course.
Okay, looks like we are live. Let me put my little Zoom background on. And we're ready to rock and roll. Thanks for your patience on this.
No, listen, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. And now let me pull up the groups so I can see who's in there and answer chats and stuff. So hold on a sec. All right, there we are. Yay. All right. I'll tell you, we're going to start right now, and I know we're live, and usually I have a few minutes with each speaker to, give them the rundown of the agenda, but I'm going to tell everybody, when you have an awesome virtual assistant and you develop a really good relationship with them, like I have with Rose for the last 3 years, she thinks for me, she takes the initiative, she makes my life easier. I don't even have to ask her. So Facebook has made live streaming into groups very difficult. You have to jump through a bunch of hoops. So between Martin and Rose, my VAs, they're a husband-wife team, they're phenomenal.
Okay.
They helped me figure it all out. They figured it out. Martin and Rose did. And then we created a process document to reference. But without me even asking or thinking about it, Rose went in there and went through all those steps and got everything ready. So I didn't have to do it. All I had to do was come on Zoom, and she did all the steps. This is why having a phenomenal relationship with your VA is so important, because I don't even ask her anymore to do stuff for me. She just does it. We get on our weekly meetings and I'll say, all right, Rose, tell me what to do. She's like, look, I think you need to get some more live videos going and reels and stuff. So anyway, Mark, I want to welcome you to the podcast. I know you've been here before, right? Never?
First time.
All right, cool. And you're friends with one of my clients, Andrew. And I want to set up Andrew Castine. Andrew Castine.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, and we're the ones talking to you about that land deal from a friend of mine in Ashland.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll schedule a time to chat.
I think you already did for Thursday at 2.
Okay, good. Yeah, I said, here, you take the ball, run with it. There's no reason why both of us have to get in the mix and try and get everybody scheduled together. All right, so hi, everybody. Mark Abramovich. For those of you in the Fortune Builders community, you know this name, you know this man. He's kind of a Fortune Builders celebrity, and he's very active in JJ's mastermind group, my group. We've kind of run in the same circles. We have a lot of the same connections and relationships. And Mark is not just a real estate investor, he's a private money lender, and his bio and his credibility was too long to put on our puny little post, but this guy's got street cred. And people who are invited on the podcast, my podcast, have to meet a couple of criteria. They need to be doing 6 figures in their real estate business. They need to be supporting themselves with their real estate business. They need to have mastered at least one system in the real estate business, whether it's wholesaling, fix and flips, rentals, or lending. And Mark's pretty much done it all. And they have to be a top 5%er. This is a very difficult business to succeed in. The statistics are pretty dismal. 95% of people who attempt to be real estate investors fail. Now, I think a lot of people, they do real estate investing and they're not doing it like a full-time thing, like a lot of people in our community. They're doing it for a little bit of a side hustle, a little bit of extra cash on the side, or to have a nice rental for family or friends or whatever. But Mark's the real deal. He deserves to be on this podcast, and I want to thank you for taking the time to be here, Mark.
It is definitely a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So the way this is going to go is we're going to talk a little bit about Mark pre-real estate chapter in your life, like who were you and what were you doing before real estate? Then how did the real estate bug bite you? Where did you start? Talk about your journey in real estate, the ups, the downs, your challenges, what you're doing now, why you're doing that now, where you're heading, and then any pitch or promotion of like any ask, like, hey, this is, if you need private money, I'm your guy kind of thing. And then we'll wrap up with if you had a captive audience and they were hanging on your every word, and they were motivated to follow your advice, what would your rooftop message be? Like up on a rooftop, they're your audience. Okay. So that's kind of the sequence. And usually the podcast goes about 45 minutes to an hour. Do you need to leave before that so we
Nope.
can? Okay, cool. So
All
let's
yours.
just start, Mark, with like, who was Mark before you were this really successful real estate mogul?
Okay. Before real estate, I was, well, I am an industrial designer. I graduated from Pratt Institute with an industrial design degree, and I actually did design and engineering for almost 20 years. I have 7 patents to my name. And when you guys go to the dentist, and if they're taking digital images of your teeth, chances are they're using equipment I worked on. At last count, when I was leaving the company I used to work for, the last company meeting they had, they mentioned something on the order of 6 million people worldwide touching our equipment daily. So that was
Wow.
pretty
Impressive.
humbling figure. Yeah.
That's very cool. What are all your patents in? Just different.
Digital equipment, basically, whether some of it was for design, some of it was for actual technical innovation of how to do the actual things differently. Actual like new engineered parts. I mean, my job was to come up with things the world had never seen. I truly loved it. I did not get out of it just because on a whim I said, well, I'm done here, let me go somewhere else. It was my commute turned into 4 hours a day, which, I mean, think about it, right? I was driving 4 hours every day. Yeah.
Wow.
I wasn't seeing my kids. I wasn't seeing my wife. I would leave before the kids were up, and I would come home if I was lucky in time to give them a bath and put them to bed. Otherwise, I was at home after they went to sleep. So my back was hurting, my knees were hurting right from the drive, and my wife turned around and said, listen, it's time for you to go out and do something else. And we were already investing. So it wasn't a difficult transition. It was just, her comment was, look, spin up our business, and then I'll leave as well.
Yeah, it was quality of life, and hey, your family
Yeah.
wants you back, dude. Right.
And then, the other part of it also was I loved my job. And I always say, if it was 5 minutes from home, I probably would have done both at the same time. But I loved my job. But then I actually ran the numbers one day of what I was earning per hour. And it was, what's my gross pay plus bonus plus medical plus benefits plus anything and everything. And then subtract expenses like gas, tolls, lunch, and then divide
A
it by the
4 hour
hours I put it
commute.
into it. Correct.
Yeah.
And then divide it right by the hours I put in, right? So between the time in the office and the commute, divided by the hours. And what I found out was I was earning $38 per hour. That was my compensation. I mean, mind you, I was making 6 figures, but it all worked out to be about $38 per hour. It was a wake-up call.
Yeah. And although some people watching this are probably like, well, 38 bucks an hour isn't bad, right?
Yeah.
So you said you guys had already been investing. Talk about kind of the first steps towards investing, when that happened for you guys.
So the first step, and why I keep smiling sometimes when you ask questions, is because I look back on this stuff and it's pretty amusing. Just the weirdness of life, right? How things fall together. So our first step into real estate was in 2005. and it was accidental. It was on a whim. There was no grand plan of, we didn't, Grant Cardone would probably say you guys weren't investors, you were dabblers, and he would be right. It was on a whim. We were sitting, my friend's parents bought a vacation trailer in the Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania. It was a really nice trailer. They paid, I don't remember what they paid, but in that community, the really nice ones by the lake were going for about 25, 30,000. And so we were, mind you, this is 2005. So maybe I'm 26 years old, 25 years old. And we're hanging out there and we're just partying, barbecuing, having fun. And the question came to, I wonder if we bought one of these, would people rent them and come up here for vacation from New York? It was about a 2-hour, 2.5-hour drive from the city. And we all were discussing it, and we said, yeah, they would. So we said, and back then there was no $25,000 to drop on a trailer and just buy one. I mean, I didn't have that kind of capital. So 5 of us turned around and said, hey, why don't we just pool money, $5,000 each, 25K, buy one. And we did. That's how we got into it. We knew nothing. We didn't know about log boxes.
So you guys bought a trailer?
Yes, we did.
A mobile home?
It was a very nice one. It was a double wide, really nice 3-bedroom, living room, kitchen, 3-bed, 2-bath, no, 1 bath, 1 bath. It was literally about 100 feet from the lake in this really nice private community. I mean, this was not you couldn't live there year round. That was one of the conditions of the community. So we bought one of these
Wow,
trailers.
that's so weird to hear that,
Yeah.
that you couldn't live there year round, because like I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, which is a hospitality area. It's a destination spot in the Southeast. And a lot of laws are changing against short-term rentals, like LA, for example. In city limits, you can't have a rental that's less than 30 days. City of Asheville, same thing. And it's so funny to hear that, because usually it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, here, I mean, there were some limitations on renting it as well, but the idea was they didn't want the owners to live there year round either. I don't know if it was something to do with the bylaws of the community, but essentially, the idea was that you would come up there for vacation. You couldn't live there year round. There was no mailbox, that kind of thing. And, like I said, I didn't know enough about it. I mean, we would drive up from New York to let people in and out, right? Which is
And where was it?
So Pocono Mountains, Eagle Lake, which is for me from Brooklyn, it was 2.5 hours each way. So it was a 5-hour, turnaround to go there.
Was it still in the state of New York or in Pennsylvania?
No, it's Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah,
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And it wasn't bad, right? If we're going up for a long weekend, it's fine. But to go up there on a Friday to let somebody in and then go up again on a Sunday to take the keys back.
Yeah, that was the pre-Airbnb days where you hire Evolve or some other company to do that, or you have the electronic locks or whatever, right?
Electronic locks. I wish I had thought of a combination lock, let alone a digital one. Just a combination that I could have given my renters to say, hey, here's the combination. Take the key out of the box. When you're done, put it back in the box, and thank you very much. We didn't even know about that. And along the way, we had kids. We bought our house, and driving up there was rough. So we did it until 2013. So for 8 years, I mean, we made it work. We bought some additional ones, which was the mistake. And until I caught myself purposely passing up on a rental just so I wouldn't have to go up there. And the moment
so it wasn't sustainable. This is a good place to pause, because people who are steeped in education but not taking action right here, how valuable was that experience for you, Mark?
Massively.
All right.
I wouldn't be where I am. It's funny. There's later on when we talk about anything else and what rooftop message, right? I'm going to basically tell everybody there's going to be bad days. There's no getting around it. There are the days when you're freaking out. There are the days when things are going wrong. Thousands of dollars are on the line. But you wouldn't be where you are without those days. I would rather lose 3,000 than lose 300,000. I would rather lose 30,000 than lose 3 million. Every piece
Well,
of the
also just not even the money part, but the, like I see
stress,
Christian
everything.
Weatherspoon's on here, and both he and I, and Chris Steele, his partner, we're all about scaling. We're all about helping people leverage technology, which him and Chris Steele, like every time you turn around, they're tinkering with some other new innovation. It's amazing, but
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't sustainable because of the time and effort that went into that. I bet you still don't have that property, do you?
No.
Yeah.
No, we sold
Right.
off in 2013. We got rid of them. It was a massively valuable experience. And what's funny is it was an experience also for the people around us. So I can mention it now, right? Fears. My fear has always been, and the biggest fear I've had to overcome and still deal with at times even today is, what will others say, right? And it's horrible, right? What will others say? Oh my God, what if others say that I'm not enough? What if others say that I'm a loser? What if others say
So
I'm a
would you
fool?
say you're concerned like about your reputation and how people perceive you?
Perceive me, yes.
Yeah.
Right? Family, friends, business,
Well,
partners.
there's another way of looking at that, being predominantly a mindset coach. You could
Mm-hmm.
come in at, and I get it. We all have our fears, and part of this process and your growth through what you've done, you've
Mm-hmm.
probably put a pretty good dent in that. But what if you're designed that way? Like I'm really into human design, and I've been
Yep.
studying it for years. Some people are built that the way they appease those insecurities is studying deeply into something and becoming an expert at it. And that gives you this foundation of authority, like, okay, I know what I'm talking about. But reputation, also that concern, you could flip it and say, well, oh, I'm someone people watch. Okay, I'm someone
Mm-hmm.
people project onto. Okay, yeah, I gotta be careful because I gotta be credible and practical. But wow, what an impact I could have, what an influence I could have, because oftentimes those of us who are fearless, those of us who are willing to fail forward and make mistakes, people are watching us and we're worried what they think, but we don't consider how inspiring that is for people, because they're learning from our mistakes without having to make those mistakes. And now you've empowered and inspired them to go, oh, if he can do it and he made that mistake and he survived, oh, maybe I could do it. It's usually from people making mistakes and surviving them and how they handle them is what really inspires other people to go, oh, you know what? I think I could do that. It's that inspires people, not so much people's grandiose success, because that's not as accessible to someone. Is this
Yes,
make sense to you?
it does make sense. And
Yeah.
that's what I was heading towards. That I have a close friend.
I stole your thunder. Sorry.
No, 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 no. It's not stealing. It's funny because that's the end cap to that. That I have a
Yeah.
close friend who rode me mercilessly as we were quote unquote failing with the trailers. And what's funny is now he invests with me, he works with me, and he told me flat out that that he was astounded. He's always been amazed over the years, and we've known each other for 20 plus years, that he's been amazed watching me fail, get up, move on, fail, get up, move on, fail, get up, and
So
actually
you developed
go away.
credibility with him, and now he rides on
Yes,
your
yes,
coattails. Yeah.
yes. So you never know who around you will watch you and will actually be inspired by what you do. And it happened
Love
with me. And I
that.
mean, and I was grateful for the fact that he actually told me that I actually know this. So,
Love that. Love
yep.
that. That is why you need to take action. No excuses, just results. You're going to learn by failing forward and stumbling along and making mistakes. So continue your story. Like after that, what did you guys do from there? Like where did you go? And is this about the time where you're your wife's saying, all right, honey, come on, let's get you out of your job that's sucking your soul out of your eyeballs, or
Not yet.
okay, so
Not yet. The job wasn't
continue
sucking it out, actually. The commute was. And
the
by the way,
community.
I'm one of the, it's funny. I've been to education. I've listened to a lot of speakers. I'm very much, I think, one of the few who espouses don't be in a rush to leave your job. I do want to point this out.
I agree. I remember coaching someone who I inherited from a coach at Fortune Builders, and I think they hired me after they laid everybody off. And I was coaching them and they were struggling. And I think this person works with Ammon Brimhall now too.
Mhm.
And one of the coaches, I'm not going to name names, told this person, you should quit your job, burn the bridges and the boats behind you, and focus 100% on your real estate. And she was struggling, this person, and it was really bad advice, and it really messed up her confidence. It put a lot of fear in her financially. The worst thing you can do, unless you are a really double type A personality,
Right.
who's just going to be able to really go for it. Most people are not built that way. It doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't, I mean, there are Pace Morbies out there that can do that, but because there's this fear of survival that's driving you, and there's this desperate energy about it, and you're going to try and make deals happen that aren't deals, and you're just going to compromise standards because, oh my God, the fear, I've got to make money at this. And most people that are really successful at it, like yourself and some of the other speakers on my podcast, they weren't successful right away. It took them several months, years. On average, I would say from all the people I've interviewed over the last few years, the average is about 18 months to 2 years before someone even got their first deal, before someone even started figuring it out by doing it.
I
Would you
didn't even
agree
know
with
the
that?
numbers that high. And what's funny is I didn't think about the survival, the survival instinct kicking in. For me, it's a much more practical thing from the lending side, which is
Okay.
having a job makes you bankable. Having a job gives you an income to rely on. Having a
And to
job,
get approved for loans with.
correct, right? So
Yeah.
it makes you bankable, right? It gives you a steady flow of income that you can at least rely on to pay your bills and eat. And then lastly, what nobody ever thinks about, we all talk about private lending and private lenders. And what's funny is I separate it a little bit into private lenders. To me, are the people who are your friends, family, and acquaintances. They're the people who know you. That's true private. People like me are just lenders, brokers. We're professionals at this. So we're lending more on the asset, experience, credit scores. The people who are true PMLs are the people surrounding you, like friends and family, who lend on you. They know you personally. They don't care about your credit score. They don't care about how many flips you've done, because they go to church with you, synagogue with you, mosque with you. They're having, your kids
They
are
have a
playing together. It's a
relationship with
relationship,
you. Yeah.
right? So,
They're loaning to the relationship.
and what's funny is your job gives you more of those relationships in order to have those private lenders. Your coworkers are those private people that already personally know you, personally have a relationship with you, and are happy to work with you. So,
Christian, excuse me for interrupting. I want to
of course,
interject. Christian Weatherspoon's on here, probably because you're on here, because he isn't on here every week because he's busy. But
okay,
Christian's got some great comments. Don't quit your day job until it's wise to do so. And
yep,
then he says, Gusto is awesome for making you bankable as an investor. And he said, you're 100% right. My main two lenders are friends. One's a fighter pilot. The other is an Amazon business owner.
yeah,
Thanks, Christian. I love your comments. Yeah.
thank you. So,
So keep going. Your story's awesome.
sure. So, now, what happened was in 2013, we essentially sold off, and we kind of, I have it, I took some notes on, on this. It was a hiatus until 2015. It was a hiatus where my wife and I, we just focused on our jobs, our kids, our house, and kind of that part of it. 2015 is where we first started talking about, again, my wife said, we should really get into real estate again, take the lessons we learned. So it is in 2015 that we went out and bought our first house, actual long-term rental. It's a 6-unit rental property, in Connecticut, Bridgeport, Connecticut. I still own it to this day, have refinanced it and made it go infinite return. And for those who don't know, it means you've refinanced and pulled all of your cash out of it. And now any and all returns are basically with no money in. So your return on paper is now called, quote unquote, infinite. Nothing in and money coming back. And I still own it. And that was 2015. And what's interesting is how we bought it. We bought it through an agent. I think it might have been listed on the MLS. But the story behind it was that the couple was divorcing and they needed to sell it to split the assets. And so we got it for an amazing deal. It was a 6-unit that we bought for $240,000. Today, a 6-unit in Connecticut easily goes for anywhere between 800 and 1 point whatever million. According to my insurance company, it's worth 1.8. That's why I don't use that insurance company anymore. So, but 2015,
game in the system.
yeah, 2015 we bought that building. 2016 we bought another 2 and joined Fortune Builders. It was by accident. We had the rentals and we realized that we needed to learn how to do things better. We didn't know where to go. And my wife stumbled onto the 2-hour, come for a free 2 hours to learn about real estate. Okay, we realized, they're going to be selling, but we went. Then, of course, it was the come for a 3-day and for $300, come for a 3-day and you learn all about real estate. We went. We realized they were going to be selling, but we went. And then, of course, we bought in. And the reason we bought in was very funny. My wife was buying the network. I was buying the education because by the end of those 3 days, I had a notebook filled out with notes. Anything between what I should be doing to improve things I should be avoiding to avoid issues. And mind you, even with notebooks of notes, I still make mistakes to this day. But we joined Fortune Builders. So that was 2016. And it's the same year we moved from Brooklyn to Rockland County. So when I was putting together a timeline kind of what happened, what years, apparently 2016 was a huge year for us. Then in 2017 is when we did our first loan. So I'm still working my job, but at this point, my wife's comment to me was, you're dragging your feet. And this is getting to, how I ended up in lending. My wife turned around and she said, listen, you're dragging your feet. We paid $36K and we haven't done anything. And I had no interest in flipping. I still don't. It's not my forte. It's a hard thing to admit what you're good at, or more specifically, to admit what you're not good at. What I'm not good at is running teams of contractors or being basically, I'm not the personality type for it. I'm good at numbers. I'm good at partnerships. I'm good with friends. I am not good at running a team of people.
No wonder you and it's. No wonder you and Andrew Castine, little buddies, because that guy, bar none, I would even say, even Pace Morby, he could put him to shame, is brilliant for constructing creative deals or finding different ways to look at a deal for his head for numbers. He was a CPA.
Yes.
It's crazy.
It's kind of like being an industrial designer. It never leaves you. He still is.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, and I mean, he can just pull the numbers, get there so fast. It's like, all right, Andrew, I want you to look at this.
Yeah.
The numbers on this for me. Thank you very much.
So the numbers I'm good at, the creative deal I'm good at, but running that team, I am not. When we were actually selling our house in New York and moving down to Florida, I have a friend of mine who is a rehabber and a realtor who's been doing it for 30 plus years. So I went to him and I said, look, I want you to sell my house. And we discussed fixing it up So he said, you know what? I will take care of the renovations for your house as well, and then we'll list it. I watched what he did, how fast he worked, how he was with people. I don't have that skill. So, and it's fine. And I've learned that I don't have it, which is why
It's,
I would
yeah,
look for people to
that
work with.
is, you know, you're making such a good point, Mark,
Mm,
that there are so many ways to make money in real estate, so
correct.
many ways, so many creative, unusual ways. If you're wholesaling and you don't like the acquisition part of wholesaling, but you're good at dispoing,
Yep.
okay, you could be an acquisition or a dispo wholesaler. You could just do notes if you really want to be truly
Yep.
passive where your money's making money. You could arbitrage Airbnb and so on. And it is really good to know not only what you're good at, but what emotionally and mentally you're capable of handling. Fix and flips are like the most stressful, difficult part of the business. That's where the highest risk is.
Right.
Because if you don't calculate things correctly, you're putting a lot of time and effort and money into something that so many people I know who I've coached or interviewed and stuff, where you not only don't make money, you lose money. So really, you just spent the last 6 months of your life or longer working and working to lose money. That's an expensive education.
But it is an education.
It
I
is.
win or I learn. And I want everybody, I mean, I'm sure a lot of the people listening to this right now
I
are
win or
experienced and
I
have heard that
learn.
phrase before, but anybody who hasn't, there's no losing. You win or you learn. And every hit I've
Love
taken,
that.
every financial hit I've taken, I've simply added it to the column of how much I spent on my education. It's easily into the six figures, and it's okay. It's what allows me to grow and do more now. So we got into, my wife said, listen, you got to do something, right? We've paid for the education. We haven't done anything. We need to do something. Do something. You do something. I said, fine. So the next boot camp we went to, we were sitting, it was the rehab. We split up. She went to wholesaling and acquisition. I went to rehabbing, and the speaker at the time went on stage and he said, who here has deals? And everybody said, we do. And he said, who here needs money for those deals? And everybody said, we do. And I turned to the guy sitting next to me, literally, and said, how much do you need? And he looked at me and he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, how much do you need? He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, the guy just went on stage and said, who here has deals? You said you do. He said, who here needs money for those deals? You said you do. How much? So he looked at me, turned to his partner, and said, hey, how much do we need? And the partner, they went through the same routine. It's like a comedy, show. But in the end run, we did the deal with them. We
We
lent to
were
them.
in disbelief that it was that easy. Like people don't get how easy it is to raise money. They just
Yes,
get
it
it. Yeah.
was. In hindsight, I can also tell you I made every mistake I could have on that loan. And it's just by the grace of God, the universe, call it whatever you want, that we all made a profit. But it was a drug. I mean, that was it. I was hooked. This is what I can do. I want to do. Um,
That's
and
gotta feel good, you know. That's such a great story to tell, Mark. Yeah, I was at this rehab boot camp at Fortune.
yeah,
Hey, how much do you need? And the guy's in
luckily,
disbelief. To be able to be the one with that power, to be able to help people do a deal and make
well,
their dreams come true.
luckily, also to be honest, right? Luckily, they weren't in Brooklyn, New York, or Los Angeles, California. Luckily, it was Jacksonville, North Carolina. The price point was a little different for what they needed and what I could do. But that's when we started lending. It was from that point that my
Christian
wife said, you can get
Weatherspoon
out.
has 50 active deals and some of them need some funding. So if you're still funding, let's talk, Mark.
Of course. Visit my site. If there's anything you need to fund, there's a deal form I have. You fill it out. We send the quote. That's my engineering background, right? I got tired of chasing people for the bits and pieces of information I needed. So I created a deal form. We don't run credit. It doesn't, tie you to anything. It's not like you have to do a deal with us, but it makes it easier for me to collect the information and for my clients to actually get a quote on paper, what we can do,
All
right?
right, Christian, did you hear that? So, what's the link
It's www.mirsgroupllc.com. MIRS is spelled M as in Mark,
All right,
I as
it's
in Inga.
you guys can see it on
Yep.
his background.
Yep. R
It's
as in
the link
Robert,
you want
S
to
as
go
in
to.
Sebastian, groupllc.com. And then, there's a button there that says quote, deal. And we're happy
Christian's
to
on the
provide one.
site now.
Good.
He's an
Thank you.
action taker.
Excellent.
Hey,
So
Christian, I get a percentage for referring you to Mark. No, Mark, I get a percentage for referring Christian to you. All right,
happy to pay
keep
it.
going on your story,
So,
your evolution.
and it was so 2017 when we saw that, yes, we could make money, doing loans. And at the time it was our money, but we could make money doing lending. That's when my wife turned around and said, okay, it's time for you to leave. And I walked into, I'm still friends with my manager. I had a close relationship and still do. And I walked into his office and I said, I'm quitting. Right. And mind you, after 18 and a half years, he was at my wedding. I've been to his kids'
So it wasn't
birthdays.
good news for him. Yeah.
No. And what's hilarious is he turned around and he said, what did Inga say? And I said, Inga told me to leave. And he said, okay, how long do I have? And I said, you've got 6 months. He said, okay. So I gave 6 months notice and wrapped things up. And then January 5th of 2018, I walked out, quote unquote, a free man. And that was it. From there, it was full time. MIRS Group was formed on April 13th of 2018. And I was off and running pretty much.
Now, are you strictly loans? Are you guys doing any acquisitions? Talk about where you're focused in your real estate investment business now.
Sure. So my primary job, my primary business job, call it whatever you want, is lending. That's it. I lend. At times, I'll structure it as a partnership, especially with clients. Let's say a bigger deal, a client comes to me and so this is where the private part comes in, right? I'm friends with my clients. In the end run, I decided I wanted to have fun with people and be friends with them. So, I figured, okay, I want to do business with friends. I want to have a close relationship. So, because of it, my clients who are repeat clients, especially, we're friends. And so if they come to me with something out of the box, or let's say they're coming to me and it's a big deal where they need some additional capital and I can't put it as a second lien, right? Most first positions don't allow it. This is where we'll start partnering and bringing money in as a partner in the LLC, right? So I'm a minority partner. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but I'll bring the money to the deal, get paid as a lender. I don't necessarily want equity. I just want a piece of, just interest on my money. So my primary is lending. Now, I do own rentals as part of my passive income portfolio, although Pat, I was at re-up with John Blackburn speaking, and then we had a chance to chat, and he mentioned that, a lot of us were promised passive income through rentals, and sometimes we find out it's not as passive as we would hope. And that's certainly been the experience, but still, that's my wealth as well, right? The appreciation, the cash flow, the mortgage pay down, all of those things, work for me just like everyone else. And with inflation where it is and the property values going up, I have benefited just like everyone else who owns real estate. So I do own some and keep buying for my own portfolio. Now, my wife runs our property management company. So we do own a property management in Connecticut called Idoni Management. And, we have a partner. We joined Fortune Builders with him. So my wife and our partner, they run that business. So my expertise in rentals and management and understanding that part of it comes from observing what they do. It's, same
So
as.
you're the money guy, their property management.
Correct.
Christian Weatherspoon's asking, do you ever buy notes? We have a few.
Typically not. I hold on to, so the notes I originate, I simply hold on to them myself. I don't sell them off. That's the cash flow on a regular basis, but I don't sell them. I don't buy them. Maybe that's going to be the next step in my evolution, but at the moment, no.
So would you say in the way you operate and the criteria you have that you're kind of a hybrid private money lender, hard money lender?
Yes.
that
broker slash
you're
lender. Yeah,
easier to work with than most hard money lenders, but you have those criteria that you set that hard money lenders have.
correct. The way I kind of explain it is, so first of all, I can go to those same hard money companies and provide the capital from them, right? That which
So
gives
you
me,
are licensed to do those kinds of
you don't need to
loans.
be. Depending on the
Okay.
state, you don't need to be licensed. This isn't residential mortgages. I do have a,
So you're a broker, you're going to lenders and you're finding the capital.
sometimes, yes.
Okay,
Sometimes it's my own capital. This is why it's so difficult to, I guess, kind of
explain,
explain what I do.
right?
I do, I always laugh when people ask me, are you a private money lender, hard money lender? What are you? And I always just laugh and say, I'm a lender, right? That's the easiest way, because in the end run, my job, kind of my function, it's not a job, it's a function, is to double check your numbers, be your second set of eyes to make sure the deal works, and then to get you financed with whatever the best option is. If the best option is to find, is to go to a hard money company that offers the specific financing you need, and it's cheaper than I am, great. That's what we're going to do. If on the other hand, let's say the deal is unique, right? I'm actually working on this for someone. I don't mention clients unless they've publicly announced that they work with me. But I have a client where we're doing a portfolio of properties, and two of the appraisals came in low. It happens.
I know
And
who you're talking about.
they came in low where they're below the limit for the lender. But they're not below the limit for me. I'm happy with the numbers, and they're actually, the values are, the amounts of the low are going to be low enough where it makes sense for me to deploy my money. Now, I have a very specific price I charge, right? It's typically 14 and 1. I don't deviate from it. That's the bucket. That's what you're paying with me. And I turned around and I told this client, I said, listen, you know what? If you want, I will finance them for you. It'll be interest only. It doesn't have to be short term. I understand that you need to hold on to this for at least 3 years. But if you're willing, and I'm willing to sign a 3-year note with you with interest only payments at my price. This is what we will do. And my client said, okay, that works for me. I'm happy with it. Let's do it. So I'm actually in the process of drafting loan docs and doing it. So,
Yay, thank you.
yep.
That's one of my clients. I appreciate that
Sure.
because this guy is such a great juggler, and that
Yep.
amount of stress he can handle and what he can juggle. And
Right.
that he's been just trying to fund that portfolio. So that's awesome.
Yep.
Thank you.
We're getting it done. And what I would like to point out to everybody listening is how small the world is, by the way. In reality, the world of us doers is actually very small, and typically we all know each other, right? Or we've heard of each other, or somehow, I mean, the degree of separation is tiny. So it's funny that I'm discussing a deal and Rihanna knows, the deal. So, hey, but
Well, it's
that's
because it's one of my clients. So I
okay.
know,
But
yeah.
but my point on it is, this is to answer, am I a broker or am I a lender, right? So the bulk of the portfolio is coming from a, capital source that I work with. They're going to be the ones doing it. The minor pieces, which we were okay not even financing, right? The client was okay with, okay, we'll just hold on to them as cash outright and cash flow them. But it makes sense to me. I have the capital to deploy. So we're actually going to make a deal for it as well. And this is why I say I'm not I'm everything, right? Lender, broker, connector, call me whatever.
When people ask you the question, instead of you could say something kind of unique to get their attention and say,
Sure.
I'm a hybrid lender.
Oh, okay. I'll go with
I'm a
that one.
hybrid lender. I do, if you need money, I
That's
can
it.
do it for you. Yeah.
So, so yeah,
What's been
that
your
was
biggest challenge? Would you say, like, your biggest challenge, and connected to that, the biggest challenge and the biggest lesson that have been the most valuable to you in your entire experience of almost 20 years of investing?
my biggest lesson. Huh.
The biggest challenge
Yeah.
and the biggest lesson.
So the biggest challenge is when I'm brokering a deal and the money is not coming from me and I'm not in control of it. I'm not the final decision maker, and being in between like that is rough. I've had people give me advice on how to do it, and which is essentially you need to set expectations correctly, and which will help. But that has been the biggest lesson for me. That challenge of not being in control of the money, and when the closing is coming up and there's something that's not clicking or something that still needs to be refined and I have no control, I cannot write a check. Sometimes I can. That's where my own money comes in, and that's where I find it easier when it is my own money, right? Either I have everything I need and I'm in control, and yes, I told you I'll wire the money is being wired, period. Versus the money is not coming from me. I'm a broker, and for whatever reason, there's something else that's outstanding or necessary. That's where it gets tough. So that has been a challenge. Lessons
And then
learned.
biggest lesson, yeah.
Biggest lesson is delivering bad news. Being upfront enough and man enough, woman enough, professional enough, strong enough, call it whatever you want, to actually to pick up the phone when somebody is calling you and have to, and it's going to be unpleasant,
Being
but to
straight
actually
with people,
say,
not avoiding them, and them
correct.
instead of avoiding and not speaking up and telling the truth.
Yeah.
It's agonizing for the person on the other end. You're not considering the
Yeah.
effect it's having on someone who is hanging on that deal, to be left hanging or wondering. And this happens a lot with the lending situation, where lenders are kept in the dark when it's time to pay back the loan. And
Yep.
any creditor, any lender, if all you do is communicate and let them know what's going on, is going to work with you, right, Mark?
Yep.
They're going to work with you. But if you're leaving people in the dark and you're avoiding phone calls, one, it has no character or integrity, and it completely annihilates any kind of trust worthiness. But yeah, that communication, being proactive, God, that just can solve so many problems in the world.
Yes.
You
And I'll
know?
tell you what's funny about it is that what I've discovered, as unpleasant the conversation is, as unpleasant as delivering the bad news is, oftentimes the response of the other person is a lot better and lighter and not nearly as unpleasant as we think in our minds.
They thank you.
Yes.
They thank you.
In my mind,
Yeah.
it's in my mind, I'm dreading it because, oh my God, they're going to be upset. Oh my God, they're gonna hate me. They're gonna hate me, right? Oh my God, they're not gonna like me, right? That's the big fear. What will the other
It's the
person say
fear of
about
the
me and think
shoot the
about me?
messenger. Yeah, it's that
And
shoot the messenger fear. Yeah.
and then what ends up happening is you deliver the bad news, and the response is typically, wow, thank you for letting me know. Okay, we'll figure it out, not a problem. And we move on. But that moment, that is the big stressor. That is that's hard. And that has been one of my, I mean, not that I avoided people before, but that's been one of the biggest challenges, right? When you have to deliver the bad news.
Yeah.
And what I work on with every deal I do and just to put it into perspective for you guys, I've done over 300 deals between loans, my own properties, whatever else. The number is over 300. And I'm not trying to be sneaky and say, well, it's 301, but it's over 300. No, it's an easy over 300 heading towards 400 deals. So it's over 300 deals. And still to this day, things will pop up that make me freak out, get scared. As I mentioned, my clients are my friends. So this is a lot closer than just, it's going to go bad. Who cares? No, I have to see this person over the next,
Right.
however many years of my lifetime.
That's the yay boo of, oh my God,
Right.
I've got a relationship with this person. This matters.
Right.
What happens, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's basically what I try to learn with every deal, is how to make sure that whatever stressed both of us out, myself and my client, how to make sure that next time it doesn't happen. What can I do to mitigate it for the next time?
Love that. Just transitioning a little bit, is there any question I haven't asked that you'd like to answer? Anything you'd like to share that we haven't covered yet?
N- I guess what is it that people can do and kind of how they should look at real estate and what, they're getting themselves into or what they're into now that they're doing it, which is
Are you talking about going back to, you realized early on fix and flips weren't for you? It's
no,
figuring out what lane you're qualified or want to drive in?
no, it doesn't matter the lane. You're going
Okay.
to have tough days. And I guess this goes back to, what happened after I got into real estate and essentially doing it full time, which is I took the advice of Jim Rohn and other speakers. And by the way, if anybody doesn't know, that's Jim Rohn was amazing.
He's kind of the grandfather of the self-improvement and
Correct.
motivation movement, right?
He was Tony Robbins' mentor. It's funny when you listen to Tony Robbins. If you've listened to Jim Rohn, you hear Jim Rohn's words coming out. So, uh, and he basically said, outwork everybody. Just outwork them. Just blunt force, outwork them. Right? You'll learn the grace. You'll figure out how to do it better. But I wake up in the morning, I start working, I spend as much time as I can with my kids, I take care of the chores, I do whatever I need to do, and then I'm working. At 9 o'clock, my family typically goes to sleep. This is still the schedule till now. And until, 1, 2 in the morning, I am still working. And when I say working, I don't mean working on deals necessarily. There is time I spend on in the business, and then there is time I spend on my business and on myself. This is when I'm listening to Jim Rohn. It's when I'm listening to Zig Ziglar. It's when I'm watching Tony Robbins videos, Grant Cardone, whatever.
Yeah.
It's basically the time I spend working on myself, right? So during the day, there, all of these hours, it doesn't stop. I'm not at a point where I can just cruise. And so I outwork. I will out research. I will outwork. People ask me, when you got into lending, what did you do? Well, I was looking for lessons and classes on lending. And what I discovered is there's not much available. I do have a mortgage license in Florida, so I'm a licensed lender, right? There's certain criteria that go with it. There's education, continuing education. But for hard money, I couldn't find anything except one lender that was doing classes in Atlanta. Well, guess what? You want to know a little about me and how I function and operate and what I do? Here's a lesson. I bought a ticket, went down to Atlanta, and went to that class. I paid for the hotel, I paid for the airfare, I paid for the class, and I went to Atlanta. That's what it took in my mind. There's another fortune builder I was lucky enough to meet. We're friends to this day, and he was doing lending through a hard money lender that's more local in Baltimore. And so he kept telling me about the guy that he was working with and how he had 20 plus years of experience in the industry. And I turned around and I said, "Can you set up a meeting?" And he said, "Yeah." So he set up a meeting for us, a nice lunch. And I put my butt on a train from New York to Baltimore and went down to Baltimore to meet with this gentleman and and learn from him everything I could. This is what I do. This is the hustle, right? The grind, the outworking, out networking, outperforming that you need to do. Find the people. And what you'll find, by the way, that real estate truly is a team sport, right? We're all willing to help. Yes, can you meet bad people and bad actors? Yes, of course, like any other industry. But overall, the pie is big enough, and we know that it's big enough for all of us to share. So you can definitely reach out to the more experienced people and get experience from them. This is what I did. This is how I learned. I found the people who knew more. The first hard money lender I bumped into was in my local meetup, my local REIA meetup. And, I said, "Hey, can you teach me?" And he said, "Sure." And we went out for breakfast, and he actually laid on me the groundwork for how lending works. And when people ask me, "Are you a private lender, hard money, right, hybrid?" The bottom line to it is, even when I lend my own money, I lend it what I call hard money style. I use the lessons, right? Appraisals, title work, LTV limits, skin in the game, all of these things I learned from
You
him.
have a process.
Correct.
Yeah.
And he was gracious enough to, again, sit down with me and break it down for me and teach me. And this is my point. You can find these mentors who will teach you and guide you in the real estate world. And my point is, learn everything, understand every part of the business. You'll find where you're strongest, right? You're good at, doing the flip, but you're not good at raising capital. Guess what? Talk to somebody like me and we'll teach you even how to raise it privately. it amazes people when I teach them how to raise capital privately and tell them that you don't need me if you've got the cash and you could do it out of your pocket if it makes sense because you have $1 million sitting in a bank account not doing anything. Yes, it makes sense to not pay me 15%. It makes sense not to pay, true hard money companies the 11, 12% and 2 points if you have the money sitting, right? It's all dependent on the situation. And a good lender or a good professional you're dealing with will be more interested in how to help you, not how to help themselves. I have a
Yeah,
close friend, and it's funny if you
because it's let me just interrupt
sure,
for a second, because they're playing a long game. They're
correct,
realizing, look, if it's, tune into their favorite radio station, WIIFM, what's in it for
for
me?
me. Yep.
Serving that person means you're going to have they're going to come to you over and over and over again. It's not short-sighted. Yeah, love
I'll
that.
mention, if those of you who see me sipping coffee here at times, right? This mug was given to me as a gift, and we have a full set of them from a close friend of mine with whom I laugh, and he's another fortune builder. His name is Joel Almasar, and he's actually my accountability coach, right? Every Thursday morning we have a weekly call, discussing where I am, what my goals are, what I'm supposed to do. And what's funny is we laugh because he was the best loan I never did, because he reached out to me initially for a loan for, to discuss ground up construction financing. And when we discussed what he was able to get from his local bank versus what I was able to offer, I flat out told him, I'm not the option for you. Get it from the bank locally. I can't touch them. You should be doing business with them. Now, I had suggestions and pointers on what to ask them and what to say to them. But what's funny is that was years ago by now. And then the conversation shifted to, well, what's going on in your business and what else do you do? And we started having, the general kind of conversation about our lives. And we hit it off and became friends. I've been to his house with my whole family, met and his wife does pottery. And so she made these beautiful cups for us. And it's one of the most cherished gifts I own. Somebody
Yeah.
putting in the thought. So my wife is a lefty, and his wife took that into account. And so what she did was she actually put the logo on one of the mugs on the flip side. So if my wife was holding the mug, the logo would again be pointed out, right? That little touch, right? What did it take to put a little consideration into it? And this is, again, the comment between Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar is how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So
Yeah.
that lesson to me, what she taught me about it, right? That little thought of doing a mug individualized for my
For
wife,
a lefty. Yeah.
right?
But she's
So,
just paying attention to that detail.
yep.
Yeah.
And I laugh about it, but and like I said, what was that deal I never did with Joel? What was it worth? Years of friendship, years of guidance. It's funny. I came up, after some years of doing the calls with him, I suddenly realized that it needs to be more of a tit for tat, because I wanted to make sure I was giving him as much as he was giving me. So to the best of my ability, I coach him on the money side of it, right? Whether it's raising capital for his down payments, deals, whether it's how to, again, talk to the bank and push him to give higher LTVs and what else he can do. So definitely I hope it's a mutual exchange as much in his mind as it is in mine. But I'm eternally grateful. And that relationship came out of me being more worried about how to make his deals work for him than trying to get a deal, than trying to get
Yeah.
another loan on my board.
Yeah. It shows your character. And over time,
Yes.
that's what people can trust. So winding down now, do you have an ask or a pitch?
My only ask and pitch is come to us if you need loans, whether fix and flip and rentals. We do what
I'm
people
definitely going to come to you.
Thank you. Uh, what what people don't realize is that hard money now does 30-year mortgages. So commercial mortgages on rental property specifically, 30-year fixed. So we're a great option, especially for those of us, and I include myself in the list, who are 1099, self-employed. We're not necessarily as bankable anymore. I use the exact same sources that I bring my clients to. My loans are from the same place. I sign those same docs. So these are companies, what I call a curated list. I don't go shopping. I'm not trying to take your loan to 1,000 companies trying to save an eighth of a percent. That's not my function. My function is to know which companies perform. When a deal comes in, 90% of the time we know where it's going, and we're just getting them done. So if you need a loan, whether fix and flip or rental, feel free to fill out the form. We'll send you a quote. If we're the best, fantastic. If not, I always laugh and say, tell me who you're working with and I'll work with them too. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, part of my
Yeah,
discovery.
you don't have to compete, you can collaborate.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I do want to say that, my big ask, learn. As funny as my ask is, again, not for me. My big ask is learn how to run numbers, how to be the best equipped for deals, right? Learn the financing side of it. Whenever I do teach a class and, I need to set up another one, I do typically run a class at least once a year on lending, and it's financing for deals. And I end it with how to be the money side of the transaction, right? Whether you're lending, whether you're partnering, how to do it. But the funny part is, both for the investor and the lender is the same thing. You need to be able to analyze the deal holistically. That is the vital part of it. So my big ask, because why I started teaching the class was I got tired of the pain, hearing the pain of investors coming to me and saying, I lost money on a deal. What do I do? Or here's the situation, it's going sideways. What do I do? And I certainly have my own five deals that went bad to the tune of 135,000 total.
Yeah.
It's not the worst number I've heard, but also for some people who have never lost money, right? Hearing that, oh my God, someone lost 135,000 is huge. My big ask is learn as much as you can about financing for deals and how to analyze and underwrite them. And I do break those things apart so that you're better equipped. Learn so that, you don't have to be one of the stories about how I lost money. Things happen, but do whatever you can to learn
So
more.
would that be your rooftop message if you were to jump on a rooftop and
Yeah.
disperse wisdom and advice?
Learn as well as do for others as you would have them do for you, right? This is a team sport. As you heard me mention, Joel, as Rihanna and I have been meeting at meetups, and part of it is it's a team sport, right? The fact that I have this platform to even tell you guys my story is because of the network I have. Your network is your net worth, and the only reason I have my network is because I've given them value. That's my first step, right? Do for them. It's funny, I was at the Pace Morby Squat Up Summit this past week for 3 days, and Cody Sanchez was on stage. And she said an interesting thing, which was figure out how to make $1 for your client for every dollar you make. And it blew my mind. That approach of how do I make sure that my clients make $1 for every dollar I make? That is a great approach. That's your team sport. That's your, Zig Ziglar's comment about you can have everything in life so long as you give everybody, make sure that everybody else around you has everything they want. That's the rooftop message. Team sport and do for others.
I love it. Well, Mark, thank you so much. I love your enthusiasm. I love how generous you are with your expertise, your learning. I bet there's plenty of people on here watching today that feel so much more empowered. You make lending, you disperse the mystery around it. You make it realize, look, guys, it's easy to get money. It's easy. Just come, ask me. I'll educate you. And I also love the you really pounding it in, like learn about the financial aspects of deals. Learn how to master the numbers in a deal. I think that's valuable. Thank you so much for being a guest and for sharing your wisdom and experience so generously. Please feel free to promote your services in my group, The Unstoppable
Thank you.
Investor. All right, everybody. And then Mark, when we close out, Rose will send you a copy of the video and you feel free to use it if you want. But go and find this post in my group, The Unstoppable Real Estate Investor, and put any links or anything you want. There might be people like Christian Weatherspoon. Do you guys know each other?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he's wanting to work with you. And he's thanking you right now. We've had a lot of engagement. Nanette Henry, great advice. Learn how to run numbers is an essential tool to have as an investor. Christian's just been gushing love all the time throughout the whole
Thank you.
presentation. You know, just everyone is just hanging on your every word because you're demystifying lending and making it more accessible to people. So thank you for that.
It's certainly been my desire to do so, and that's kind of the big push of what I do, because I hear everybody talk about raising private capital. Okay, that's fine. I hear about people borrowing hard money. Okay, but what I rarely hear, and what I try to talk about as much as I can, is kind of the holistic approach of finance through a deal, right? You don't have to borrow from me. That's not, I'm just one of the tools, right? Hard money's an option, private money's an option. We can talk about the option, but understanding the flow through and where you can get it and what the tools are available are, that's the key. So
yeah, I love it. Love
thank
it.
you for having me on.
Thank
This
you
was
so
a
much.
blast as always.
Yay. All right, everybody, send Mark some love. I want to see lots of hearts lighting up the screen right now. Lots of love, folks.
Laughs will do too.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'll be reaching out to you. And thanks for helping my client. And
Absolutely.
bye, everybody. Now, go on, take action, no excuses. Go get results. Go get a deal and go to Mark for the money. Bye, everybody.